Hi Virgo, welcome to your March 2018 Life Path reading. It's Raina here. Okay, I'm just shuffling these cards. I'm going to be picking a Law of Attraction card and 3 other cards. I'll tell you what they are as I go along. I've been saying this in prior videos because I did get a comment about this, and I've gotten comments in the past. Sometimes when I'm doing, typically for YouTube with cards, it's going to be a tarot reading. And because I don't know how to shuffle in that classic sense, I just kind of like, I was going to say smush all the cards on the table and then pick from them. Or put them into little piles and pick from them. And you can see it on camera that I'm picking the cards. Sometimes I don't do that. I'm doing it behind the scenes. I reserve the right to do it however I feel it in the moment, but the point being that someone said they would like to see it happen, I guess, at all times. Maybe they didn't see the times when it did happen. And, it's really not about the cards themselves. I know that sounds like a bit of a contradiction since I'm, calling it a tarot reading or an oracle card reading in this case. But it isn't. It's about the messages that come up and how they relate to your life. That's all, end of story. And anybody who deliberately picks cards and pretends that they're doing so randomly, well, that's fraudulent, isn't it? And they have to live with that choice. I choose to live in integrity. It does irritate me when people might question that, but it's how I do things. It's how I roll. So hopefully you can understand why I'm doing this behind the scenes. I have my tripod set up in a way that, it's barely, if you saw how I've got it jury-rigged, you'd laugh. But it works for me based upon my, this is my foray, my introduction to anything related to filming, so I'm kind of learning as I go along. So I can't even imagine, being able, it's so awkward as it is to even try to put out the cards in the first place, to have to find a way to film it without having the camera in the way. It'd be like, whoa. Difficult for me. Plus, I want to be close to the mic of the camera. I don't have an external, like an extra mic or anything like that. So it's very simple what I'm doing here. Okay, the card I got for the Law of Attraction, the affirmation, it was instincts. I act on my instincts and notice the signs and symbols in my life. That's actually the synchronicity part. If you look at little children, one of the things, I don't have children of my own, but I always notice how they see the little details in life that adults a lot of times miss. And that's really what this is about. When you see the symbolism, when you see the synchronicities of your life, you really begin to feel that nothing is random. That this is not a random chaotic universe, that everything has a purpose, a structure. Divine timing is, always there. And it's a great feeling. Okay, now I'm shuffling the Keepers of the Light Oracle. Oh, I like him. He's like a spaceman. Commander Ashtar. I see sometimes they have those videos on YouTube. They're kind of interesting, to say the least. Okay, and this one is going to be the Energy Oracle, Sandra Ann Taylor. Oh, I wonder if this is kind of like the Six of Wands. Some of the Energy Oracle deck seem to be like the tarot in certain respects. The last card I'm picking is from the Earth Magic deck. And I'll start with this card. I got this for another sign. What sign did I get that for? And I'm going to read from the booklet because that's how I... The light from the heavens falls upon the children through the rays of the sun that illuminate their presence like a spotlight. The little girl reaches out to these bright beams, and these elements together portray an idyllic childhood activity for many of us who've had the privilege of exploring the natural world. The blanket of lush meadow grass embraces a small pond which leads to a more distant valley, one that is darker and shrouded by the clouds, the very clouds that also produce this remarkable play of light. In their exploration of the world, it's inevitable that these children will at some point lose their original innocence. It doesn't have to be a permanent loss, however. We don't need to live in constant fear of anticipation of such an event, nor do we have to reconcile the loss of that state of purity by constantly romanticizing the past and missing out on the present. The wisdom and faith we've accrued from our life experiences are keys to recapturing that state of innocence. The light that will guide us through any dark passage is the light of spirit from within that connects us with Source. Finding our innocence once again, we become aware that it was never lost, just forgotten. And so the message is, innocence is not simply the lack of guilt or shame, but a quality in itself, one that you naturally possess when you first come into this existence. There are challenges you have faced throughout life that have further shaped your personality and character. You have also likely encountered moments following a disappointment or loss when you turned sour or cynical, and no doubt have had times when layers of anger or fear blocked the flow of your vitality, your life force. Yet in spite of all this, there is a core of innocence that you can reawaken by releasing any shame that has covered over the truth of who you are. Take any opportunity to heal this shame and let it go so that you can revisit that state of purity. Doing so helps you see every moment with fresh eyes and removes the filters that inhibit your light and love from coming forth. You truly are a child of God, so allow yourself to be that. And I can't remember what sign I got that had this as well. One of the things I said was that they keep focusing on shame, purity, and so typically you would think of sexual abuse as being connected with that. But there are other things that create a loss of innocence. Any kind of trauma, any kind of violence, death. I think that is such a big one because there are people who have the death of a parent especially. I think this is such a traumatic one when they are young. And young doesn't have to mean 8 years old. It can mean a teenager as well. And it is very traumatizing, and they may grow up and have children of their own and live their life, but they are never the same, and they kind of get frozen in that moment of time. They lose that innocence, and in some cases they develop addictions and negative personality traits. Maybe OCD, obsessive compulsive traits, or just having a lot of anxiety around the fear of abandonment or of if they have children, they may actually be overly protective of their child because they're afraid of that loss as well. And that's something that I don't know if you ever fully heal from it, but I think you can transcend it. I think you can fully heal but not forget. That's what I really mean to say. I think you can really go on to thrive, but a lot of people never find that healing for whatever reason, and it really affects them. So I would add to what they said with innocence. Of course, it is a loss of innocence too, and the idea of the inner child and bringing out that inner child, I think, is vitally important. Virgo is a sign of service. A lot of Virgos may lose themselves in their work, and that can be a good thing. However, there also should be a time when you let your hair down and you play. A Virgo person may say, play, what's that? I mean, you rule the 6th house of work in the zodiac wheel. So you may feel that you identify with work versus play. The 5th house is play, Leo. The 6th house is work, Virgo. And part of play is creativity. That's another buzzword of the 5th house. And love, love affairs, enjoying life, fun and games, going to a concert, going to a play. You deserve those things as well. So that's kind of like, yeah, I mean, when I was thinking of playing, children play, or they're supposed to play. And when they can't, when something happens that prevents them from being able to do that, that's when they lose that innocence. Okay, so what do I want to do next? I'm going to end on the Keepers of the Light. So I'm going to do Victory. And that was that card number 28. This card shows a beautiful spirit holding a golden victory wreath in acknowledgement of your success. Success is on its way, and you have a sense of pride in what you've worked to accomplish. The achievement may be a great outer success, or it may be a deep inner change that you've been exerting a lot of effort toward. Enjoy the sense of accomplishment. But be careful not to rest on your laurels. People expect outer triumph to bring great changes, but often there may still be inner work to do. Let yourself be open to victory on every level now. And then let's read the affirmation for that. I am achieving great things within myself and in the world. I see myself as a success in many wonderful ways, even now. I always like to say that Virgo is very modest and therefore humble. And I like that quality in Virgo. I mean, I think there's nothing worse in a personality trait, very little worse than arrogance, right? But on the other hand, believing you're deserving of good stuff coming to you, of accolades, and really receiving them. Going back to that comparison with Leo, the Leo soaks in compliments like it soaks in its ruler, the sun. And it loves to get complimented. And Virgo might be kind of uncomfortable with that. If somebody says, oh, I love your dress. Oh, this old thing, I've had this for 5 years. And, it's so funny because when you think about that, if you've ever said something similar to that, the other person may say, oh, wow, now I feel insulted because they're questioning my, they're showing that I have bad taste. I just complimented something that's an old rag. So just think of it from that angle if you think it's too egotistical to bask in a compliment. Okay, and then we're going to look at Commander Ashtar. I love that. I love his spacesuit. Whoa, this thing, see, this is an example of my tripod getting whack. Take charge, call to action, take charge, lead by example, walk your talk. Let's see what he's all about. I think he's connected to Eckankar, but I don't know if he's just like an archangel. Ashtar, also known as Commander Ashtar, is a multidimensional being who promotes truth, peace, and harmony between the I can't read. Between the planets. He is said to be an extraterrestrial, but appears in human form so that he can communicate at a heart level with all those on Earth who call on him. He is part of the Great White Brotherhood, a congregation of light beings who work to bring healing to the world, and is a wonderful guide to those who are feeling the call to bring positivity, healing, and inspiration to those around them. He lifts up the hearts of leaders and inspires them to walk their path with complete integrity. You are receiving a call to action and being asked to step up and create the changes you want to see in the world. Divine inspiration is all around you, and Ashtar and his legion of cosmic angels are standing by to offer you loving support. Know that you are being encouraged to be honest, assertive, and true in a loving way. You may feel your ego trying to hold you back, but know that when you take the first step, the next one will soon follow. Take some time to connect with the universe by looking up at the stars, knowing that there are loving beings of light gazing back down on you. You are not alone. I think you can do that in a very organic way. I don't think you have to make some big pronouncement to the world. Just by not being a hypocrite. And you don't have to be a perfect specimen either. With Virgo, I think one of the biggest challenges is not being judgmental. I have a moon in Virgo, so I feel your pain. And really, Virgo is about evaluation. But there's a difference between judgment and discernment. Discernment is discernment is not personal. It's like saying, yeah, I think this is a better path for me. But judgment is when you're saying, that person is such an idiot. They're so blah, blah, blah. And you're really making it personal about them. Instead of looking at a behavior, person, place, or thing in the light of how it affects you and what you want from your life, but not to tear down a person's basic humanity in the process. And with Virgo, it's not mean-spirited. It's simply that's a habit, is to always be analyzing things. And therefore, thinking that you almost have to make a judgment about things, that it's like you're not breathing if you're not evaluating something. And sometimes that gets in the way of just simply receiving. That's a book that I haven't gotten past the introduction, but you might find this very interesting in order to do this type of thing. It's called The Presence Process. And I've only gotten into the introduction, like I've said, but so far they talk about that, how we always are judging things that come into our existence instead of just accepting them as is. And I'm reading this thinking, how is that even possible, to not judge everything that comes down the pike? Or at least not analyze it. And really, it's because the mind, this is like the crux of the situation, or the problem, if you will, is that the mind is engaged in that process. And the mind, we think our minds are our best friends. And with Virgo, you're ruled by Mercury, and Mercury connects with all of thoughts and communication and things like that. But the mind is part of the world. It's the part of the chatter that goes on, and it doesn't necessarily serve you. Your thoughts can be your worst enemies. So don't just think that because you're thinking something that it's necessarily true in its core essence, or that it is helpful. And people who are air signs, people like who are ruled by Mercury, like you and Gemini, can really embrace the idea of your thoughts as being the utmost in, leading the way in your life, and yet they can just run amok your thoughts. So anyway, I think that these are some interesting messages that have presented themselves here. And just to let you know, I do a life path career reading that is it's not really along these lines. It's along these lines in terms of the philosophical approach of looking at yourself as a spiritual being having a human experience. And part of that human experience is having a career. And how does that jibe with your life path? So the North Node, we could say, is your soul's mission or your life path. But sometimes you may find yourself in a different career, in a career that kind of is not necessarily associated with that. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it feels like it's wrong, and you may be at a crossroads or just want that kind of different point of view. And I use your astrological chart to accomplish this rather than the tarot or oracles or anything like that. And so it's a different medium, but it can be kind of, for some people, really resonate with where they're at or what they want to do, and perhaps inspire you in some way. And I have other types of readings as well. My website is RainaMoonAstrology.com. That's AI like rain, make it rain, Raina. But you can also just click on the link below this video, and I have the link to my website. But I wish you all the best in March, Virgo. Take care. Bye.